welcome to First Chapter Friday. My name is Lucy, and the book that I am going to be reading the first chapter of today, actually the first two chapters because the first chapter is so short. The second chapter will give you a little bit more context as to what the story is going to hold for you. But the book is called Blended by Sharon M. Draper. This is the story of an 11-year-old girl who is known as Isabel by her father. Her mother calls her Izzy. Her father is black. Her mother is white. And Izzy gets asked a lot from people she doesn't know, what are you? Who are you? Based on what they perceive from her appearance. She also feels this question deeply about herself because right in the beginning of this book, her parents get divorced and they live in separate houses. And so her life is not only divided by this constant internal question of who is she, the checking of boxes, the wondering if she's other, this identity piece for her, and how she moves through the world. But now she's navigating these two houses and she splits her life completely evenly between her parents. Every other week she stays with the other parent, and her parents are very strict about the schedule, and there's a drop off at the same point every week. And so there's really this pulling that's going on in Izzy's life. One thing that she does have, this one thing that's sort of her place she can go to, is the piano. She loves playing the piano. She has a Casio keyboard at her mother's house. Her father, who is very wealthy, has a grand piano. Her mother's a teacher and lives in a smaller house. There's also a socioeconomic imbalance between her parents' two lives. What's also important to Izzy is her friends, and then her father's girlfriend's son, Darren, is really like a brother to her, and she cherishes that sort of sibling relationship. Isabel describes herself as a kid sliced in half, and much of this book is about how she reconciles those two halves. She also has just some normal 11-year-old experiences with her friends. She has some unusual experiences because of who she is and who the world perceives her to be. She's a great character. I really became attached to her. She's funny. She's got spark, and the book was hard to put down. So I'm going to read the first two chapters, as I said, of Blended by Sharon M. Draper. Chapter 1, Plunk, Plink, Ripple, Rumble, Tinkle, Twinkle, Boomble. I know that's not an actual word, but it's a real sound. I can create any musical combination of sounds on my piano. That's my superpower. I sit, hands perched with thirsty fingers as I get ready to play. I work hard at it, always trying to find the right melodies and harmonies, the upstairs, downstairs, scales that rise and fall, the 3 and 4 finger chords that stomp, the fingernail delicate tiptoeing up and down the keyboard, each touch a new sound. White keys, black keys, one at a time, chords all together. 2 keys make a different sound than 3 played together. 4 or 5 mashed at the same time is even better. I can do 9 keys, even 10, to make a chord, but to be honest, that sounds weird. Each combination at the piano is different. Bass, treble, major tones, minor wails. Bass like a celebration, treble like tears. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up, 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 down, down, down. Harmony, melody, chords, scales. The black keys play sad sounds like somebody crying. The white keys sometimes laugh. Using only my fingers, I can make the black and white keys dance together and do whatever I want. When I play the piano, I rock. It would be nice if the rest of my life came together like some kind of magical musical symphony. But nah, not usually. Chapter 2. I started playing the piano when I was 3, sort of. For my birthday that year, I got one of those plastic keyboard toys done up in cotton candy pink, the kind with fat keys that played way out of tune and drove grown-ups crazy. But I loved it. I wasn't interested in any of the dolls or blocks or tea sets I'd been given, only that piano. Plinking and plunking on it nonstop. My parents had to take it away from me that night, just for a little quiet, and I cried myself to sleep. The next morning, I demanded they take it down from the top of the refrigerator or they'd put it out of my reach. and I played on it most of the rest of the day. I learned to pick out tunes, figured out the different tones of each note. I wanted more. So my big Christmas ask was always for a piano, top of my list, even though my parents would tease me and pretend they'd forgotten. Every other year, I'd find a big box wrapped in red paper, a toy piano, a red one, another pink one, each one a little better than the one before. I taught myself to create my own tunes and later to read a little music. Yeah, I was obsessed. But still, they were just toys, and usually some of the plastic keys would give out in a few months. The Christmas after I turned 7, there was no big box at all. I got a doll, which they should have known I was no longer interested in, some clothes, a few art supplies for painting and drawing, and a couple of board games, which was dumb because we didn't usually sit down and play anything together as a family. I suppose it was selfish, but I was kind of mad. Finally, after all the gifts had been opened, Mom said, all chipper, "I'm hungry, let's have pancakes." Dad said, just as cheery, "Good idea. Isabella, would you check to see if we have pancake mix?" I couldn't figure out why he was asking me to do that, but it was Christmas, so I said sure. I checked the cupboard, actually found 2 boxes of the mix, and returned to the living room to report. Sitting in the middle of the floor, where just moments ago there'd been only balled up red and green paper, was a huge box wrapped in silver. On it was my name written in large black letters. I gasped. "Open it," my parents said together. I hesitated just for a second, then tore through the wrapping. It was a portable piano, a real piano keyboard, a Casio. "Oh, wow," I remember saying. It was black and shiny and seemed to fill the whole living room floor. I was in heaven. With 88 weighted keys, it almost felt like a real piano. Built-in speakers too, plus buttons I could push for rhymes like jazz beats and military and drums. I didn't really need those, but they added fun. I could record on it and play back stuff I'd created. It let me listen to myself so I could correct mess-ups and smooth out the hard sections. Mom signed me up for piano lessons at school. Daddy bought me sheet music, but even though my parents were the ones who bought it for me, they started getting annoyed at my constant banging on that Casio. Some days they looked angry when they told me to give it a break, and it took me a while to realize they weren't really mad at me, but at each other. The noise probably jangled their nerves, and their nerves were plenty jangled. They had always fought about stupid stuff, but now it seemed like they fought all the time. They bickered over whether we'd have hot dogs or hamburgers for dinner. They squabbled over whether I should wear jeans or leggings. An argument could break out at any moment over lost car keys or bars of soggy soap or burnt toast. Then there was the Kool-Aid incident. Who would have thought something as simple as Kool-Aid would cause a fight? But yeah, that was about 3 years ago. I guess I was around 8. They started arguing right before dinner. Daddy hated blue Kool-Aid for some reason. He said the turquoise color and the raspberry flavor just didn't make sense, so he wouldn't drink it. I was sitting at the table getting ready to pour myself a big glass of it. Mom's voice got loud. Daddy's voice got louder. By this point, I was shaking, really shaking. Then Daddy actually started shouting, and I dropped the entire container of the stuff on the floor. The pitcher broke. Blue, sticky mess went everywhere. And the shouting turned to bellows, and Mom started crying, and I knew I was in so much trouble. I ran to my room, curled on my bed, and covered my ears with a pillow. When the hollering finally settled down, it was way past my bedtime. I tiptoed into the kitchen, grabbed 2 slices of cold pizza from the refrigerator. Mom and Daddy had forgotten about dinner and, apparently, about me. So those are the first 2 chapters of Blended by Sharon M. Draper. Right away, you learn about Isabella's love for the piano, and you can see how Sharon Draper's writing is very descriptive and how much fun it is to read. And then I read the second chapter because I wanted you to get a sense of where Isabella was starting out in this book and what was going on in the conflict around her. So I really loved this book. I would highly recommend that you read it. It's a great story. Blended by Sharon M. Draper.